Hi everyone, and welcome back to us learning all about our bodies, specifically our heart. We know that our heart is a muscle and its job is to pump blood, carrying oxygen and nutrients to our working muscles around our body. We also know that the heart gets its oxygenated blood from the lungs. It fills up the heart, and then the heart contracts and pumps that oxygenated blood around our body, like I said, to our working muscles. The oxygenated blood is pumped from our heart to our muscles via some blood vessels called arteries. Now those blood vessels, when the heart pumps that blood, they expand. And we can feel that expansion of the blood vessels via our pulse. And we've measured our pulse using our carotid artery in our neck. You also have another artery in your wrist where you can feel your pulse as well. And that pulse we can use to measure our heart rate. And our heart rate, as we know, is how many times our heart beats every 60 seconds. Today we're going to be talking all about heart rate zones and how hard we need to be working to get into the right zone to get the most benefit out of our exercise to improve our heart and make it stronger. So there are 5 heart rate zones that we can get our body into. First we have resting heart rate, we then have light activity, we have moderate activity, vigorous activity, and then finally difficult or high intensity activity. For resting heart rate, that is when your heart is beating at 40 to 50% of its maximum heart rate. For light activity, that's when your heart is beating at 50 to 60% of your maximum heart rate. For moderate activity, your heart is beating at 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. For vigorous, it is 70 to 80% of your max heart rate. And then for high intensity or really difficult activity, then your heart rate is at 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. Your maximum heart rate can be figured out by a really simple equation, and it is just an approximate equation. That equation is 220 minus your age, gives you your maximum heart rate. So for example, if you are an 11-year-old, then you take 220 minus your age of 11, and your maximum heart rate will be 209 beats per minute. Now comes the fun part, when we're measuring what heart rate zone we are in. Once you've found out what your maximum heart rate is, using the equation of 220 minus your age, let's say your maximum heart rate is 209. If you want to be working in the heart rate zone of vigorous, being 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate, then all you need to do is take 209 times it by 0.70 or 0.70, and then you will get 70% of your maximum heart rate. Then you can take 209 times it by 0.80, and you'll get 80% of your maximum heart rate. Then you know that you can work in between those two figures, and you'll know that you're working vigorously. Now, if we look at the National Physical Activity Guidelines for children aged 5 to 17, it states that we need to have 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity every single day. So that means that you need to be doing an activity that gets your heart rate into the moderate to vigorous heart rate zone for 60 minutes in that day. So what you need to try and do is figure out what is 60% of your maximum heart rate. You now know the equation. You take your maximum heart rate, times it by 0.60, and that'll give you 60% of your maximum heart rate. Then work out what is 80% of your maximum heart rate. If your max heart rate is 209, because you're an 11-year-old, times that by 0.80, and you'll get 80% of your maximum heart rate. Now you know the heart rate zone between 60% and 80%, which is moderate to vigorous activity, That is how fast your heart needs to be beating to be in the right zone of moderate to vigorous activity, and do that for 60 minutes every day. I want you to figure out what sort of activities do you do that get you into that moderate to vigorous heart rate zone. Have a think about that now. What sort of activities did you come up with? And are you meeting the National Physical Activity Guidelines of 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity every day? If not, how are you going to go about changing your habits to become a healthier and stronger version of yourself?